To be honest with you guys, I don't even know how to start this video. I feel like I keep trying to start this video, but I'm not even sure how to do it. So here we are nonetheless. I don't want to take too much of an intro because if you know by the title, this is going to be everything I learned in my last relationship and a little bit of my story. Uh, Before we get started, I do want to do a quick disclaimer. I will be talking about loss, grief, sadness, narcissism, trauma, traumatic abuse. So if you are not mentally equipped to handle that right now, I would suggest saving this video and coming back to it later on because it is really intense. So I just want to let you guys know. I also want to start and preface by saying this is based on my experience. Nowhere in this video am I going to mention names or anything like that. This is not meant to belittle anybody. This is just my story. Many of you guys ask me all the time where I get my wisdom. How do I know so many things at such a short age? And the truth is, it's the experiences. The wisdom comes through the lived experiences and through things that I've accumulated. And I feel like a huge part of my journey here on earth is navigating the depths of darkness and helping others and guiding others towards that darkness themselves, having walked through it. So I'm not meant to be a guru. I don't have it all figured out. I am just your bestie walking alongside you on this journey. So if you like that kind of content, then this is what this channel is going to be about. I'm not going to lie, my inner child's a little nervous just because there's a lot of energy attached to this topic. But I also know that I'm ready and I'm ready to share my story and I'm ready for my voice to be heard. And I also want to preface this was 4 years ago, by the way, not my current partner. Love him. He's amazing. This is my previous last or my last relationship, technically. So that's what we're going to be going off of. And yeah, that's pretty much it. And let's go ahead and get started. So if you guys have been following me for a while, then you can skip a little bit through this part because it's going to be redundant at this point. But if you don't and you don't know a little bit of my story, hi, my name is Paola. I started my spiritual awakening back in 2015. And one thing led to the next, and I ended up landing on TikTok, which is maybe where you follow me from, or maybe you're just now meeting me, or I don't know, bestie, maybe you're my neighbor. I'm not sure. I don't know who's watching, to be honest. But nonetheless, I ended up landing on 2019 on TikTok, and it was the best experience of my life. TikTok literally changed my life, and I'm not even trying to lie or anything about that. But through TikTok is actually how I met the last person I was dating. And I was with this person for about 2.5 years. So long enough to accumulate a lot of lessons and to learn a lot of valuable things about myself. And to be honest, this was 4 years ago. So I was a lot younger. And to be honest with you, I didn't know self love. I feel like I honestly didn't know self love until I left that relationship and I made the conscious decision to choose myself. Because I feel like up to that point, I had never chosen myself fully. I always put other people and, like, especially romantic partners, like, needs before my own. And I think a huge part of the lesson within that relationship was realizing through my ex-partner how much of myself I was neglecting. Even the dark aspects that I didn't like of my partner were aspects of myself that I had within me that I was choosing not to face. But with that being said, that does not exempt the abuse, the karma, and also a lot of the exploitation that there was in that relationship. But like I said, I didn't know self love. And I went into it thinking, I want a partner that's spiritual. He was in the similar industry that I'm in, and we kind of connected. And that's how this whole thing kind of started. And once we connected, we were kind of inseparable, to be honest. And of course, coming from someone who was single 6 years before and finding somebody that, I clicked with and that I felt so understood and seen by, it was really quick for me to grow in love, or I guess I should say in this case, fall in love, and fall with this illusion of what I thought was love, even though I wasn't looking at the reality of things. And the reality is the compatibility, the truthfulness, the integrity, all of those pillars that I have today, I can't say I had back then. I was just thinking, I'm in love. Like limerence. You get what I'm saying? Like limerence, right? And it was like this cute, karmic, swift, like 0 to 100 real quick kind of love. And we grew together. Like we obviously grew together, but we also moved in super quickly with one another. And I feel like the reason why we moved in so quickly was because I lived at that time in Florida and they lived in California. So there's a lot of distance there and a lot of difference. So obviously when you're in love, you want to move closer and all that stuff. So we ended up actually moving together and living together, which, as you know, when you live with someone, you get, it's not that you are not able to hide, because I don't think when you're with the right person you have to hide anything, but I do feel like living with somebody teaches you so much about who they truly are and how compatible you are and how much you learn from each other and what routines are, those pros and cons of being in a relationship. And prior to that point, by the way, I had never lived with a man. So it was a first time for a lot of different things. First of all, I had never dated another spiritual person, like at least somebody that I thought was like at that level. And I had also never lived with a man. So it was a lot. Oh, also, and I had never moved completely across the country ever in my life. And I'm super close to both of my parents and my family. So true and true, I said, you know what, I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna do this full plunge, like full plunge. So I ended up going for it. And I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I'm not gonna sit here and pretend like there weren't good moments, because there were really good moments. There were moments where I had a lot of fun and I felt like alive. And to be honest with you guys, the kicker here is I got to meet my best friends through my ex, and they're still my best friends to this day. And they're probably watching this video. I love you guys. So, yeah, so I got to meet some of my best friends there, and it's been beautiful. We can talk about that later on, but I got to meet and I got to expand. So that was always great. And I thought that that was a really good sign. But I think one of the biggest things that had happened back in the day was that I hadn't developed my own self love, which is what I feel like landed me in that relationship. I also had never developed my intuition fully and a sense of who I am like I have now. So I couldn't see then what I could see now and what I know now. And knowing that is refreshing, because at some point, you guys, I wasn't able to talk about this story without bursting into tears and just feeling like, woe is me. And I don't genuinely feel that way anymore. I feel like this experience has allowed me to touch and work with so many people that I never thought would be possible. Um, help so many women heal, help so many men heal, help so many people heal, right? Regardless of gender, I've gotten to meet so many beautiful people. I've gotten to travel the world. So it's been a beautiful experience. I don't want you guys to feel like, woe is me. But at the time, I didn't know love. I just didn't. I didn't know love. And I would assimilate trauma bonding with love. And this is where I feel like the relationship took a turn, right? Like we moved in together. When you move in, you're in such a tight knit space. So it's encapsulating. So now the real ish starts hitting the fan, right? So I started to see the reality of what their relationship was, which, to be honest with you, was a toxic karmic relationship. And it's almost like this facade, this limerence stage, which was around the 90-day mark, I'm going to say like 4-month mark, started to kind of fade away. And then reality started to reveal itself. Now, I just want to pause for a second. This is going to be, so just stay with me. And I want to say something. When you're a highly spiritual, evolved woman, feminine energy, you tend to attract a lot of unhealed people. People that want you for your energy, for your looks, for your potential, for the image that they have created in their mind of you. Not necessarily you, but the potentiality. Also, when you're an empath, a highly sensitive person, but mainly, I'm speaking from the experience of being a woman because I have a womb, so I consider myself that. Uh, you attract a lot of unhealed men. And the a natural healing aura is actually a sexual healing aura. So again, you attract, it's lucrative, but that's not the reality. And I feel like in this relationship, I started to see that come out more to the surface. I started to see how we were not compatible. I started to see an abuse of power. I started to see a lot of manipulation, a lot of narcissism, a lot of gaslighting. And like I said, back in the day, I didn't even know what a narcissist was. Like I heard of the term of it. And by the way, I'm not diagnosing this person. I'm not saying they are a narcissist. I'm just saying there were tendencies. There's a difference. There were tendencies. I think we all have narcissistic tendencies. That's the truth. Um, but yeah, I saw a lot of things come up to the surface that to me were not light consciousness. You get what I'm saying? Like they were not somebody, it's not the things that you do to somebody that you love. But again, I didn't know that because when you don't know self love, you take breadcrumbs as in, oh baby, like that's a wedding ring, and it's not. It's not even a loaf of bread. Like no, but nothing can be fed off of that. So I started seeing a lot of that come up to the surface, and I think the biggest red flag that I saw was not the first red flag I saw was isolation. And isolation came with this restriction of being able to be with my family, with my parents, with my friends. So I felt like I was leaving behind a lot of me. It also even came in the restriction of spiritual practices, such as I was not to meditate, or I was to meditate every single day for like 5 or 6 hours. Otherwise, there would be an interference in our relationship. So I just feel like a lot got distorted. And when you're in a relationship, you trust your partner. When you're in love with somebody, you trust that this other individual is also in love with you, which means they're doing this thing with you. So you think that they have the best interest for you, and you think that they'd want the best from you, and they want you to achieve your goals, and they want to support you, and they want to amplify your energy, not drain your energy. But to be honest, I felt like I was always drained. I mean, I was really skinny. I felt like I was literally being drained physically, mentally, spiritually, esoterically, emotionally. It was just heavy. And I dealt with so much psychological warfare outside, but also inside. And I remember, like, throughout this process, there was a lot of abuse of power, a lot of starvation, a lot of starvation just from community, from people, from socialization, but also from doing the things I love, which is why, by the way, if you've been following me for TikTok for a while, I actually disappeared for 2 years. And many of you guys were worried and you asked where I was. And some of you guys were making comments and, stating that I just didn't look good. And it wasn't an appearance thing. Like you guys were talking about how I was just not myself, and I wasn't. I didn't talk the same. Like if you know me, you know I'm very loud. Like I'm very zen, but I'm also like, what the fuck, you know? I just wasn't myself. Like the spark was completely gone. And like I said, because I didn't know self-love, I used to assimilate this as love. And the biggest red flag was the concern that a lot of people showed in my life, yet I was not listening. And the thing is like, nobody can do anything. Like, they can tell me till the cows come home, till they turn blue in the face. But until I choose to actually believe that and see that through and actually remove myself from that, I got to stay in it. It's very tough because when you understand quantum physics and the way this quantum world works, or like the quantum entanglement is like once your karmic contract is up, you cannot avoid relationships or situations. What's predestined to happen was predestined to happen. And I do feel like this was a destiny point for me. Let me be so clear about that. But I didn't look at it like that back then. I was like, this sucks ass. Like, what did I do in a past life to deserve this? But I see it now, bestie. I do. But it's been like 4 or 5 years at this point. So I would hope by this point I could talk about it. But anyway, so the abuse happened. I was feeling drained, the concern. My family had a lot of concerns. My family is so spiritually gifted, especially my parents. If you're wondering where I get it from, that's literally where I get it from. But my parents were having dreams left and right. My mom and I didn't talk. Mind you, I want to preface and say this because this is the kicker about shadow work, growth, and healing and learning. There were truths to a lot of things that my ex was trying to reveal to me. Like there were truths about, the connection I have with my mom and my dad and the codependency. Like those are real things. And I've talked to you guys about that. Like I'm an open book. I got not shit to hide. So there's that. But I also feel like there are energies, entities, beings that use truth and distort it in order to abuse, to control, and to fearmonger. And that's what I feel like was being done to me. I feel like those things were being done to me to keep me hostage so that I wouldn't leave. I hope this is making sense. I'm trying to be mindful of how I speak about this in a professional, but like also very best friend coded for you guys because there was legalities and stuff associated with this theme, but with this whole conversation. But yeah, I just felt like there was a lot of truth, but I'm going to say it because I'm not going to sugarcoat myself, and spirit's got my back. I literally felt like a lot of what I opened up to my partner about was exploited and used for their business, but also was exploited and used against me. And in a very twisted, psychological, dangerous way. That is the truth. So, and again, I didn't know these things back then. So you think when you fall in love with somebody, you grow in love with somebody, you're thinking that, they're going to grow with you and they have your best interests. Unfortunately, things happen. Sometimes that's not the case, unfortunately. But I do feel like genuinely a lot of things were being distorted. So fast forward, we're in the relationship. I'm obviously doubting a lot of things, you guys. I'm questioning life. I'm contemplating my life at that point, to be very transparent with you. And I actually ended up being pregnant. And I was pregnant, obviously. And when I found out the news, my family was actually really worried. They were worried about my safety physically, but also mentally, emotionally, because at that point I had been significantly underweight and I was also very stressed. There were also a lot of things going on behind the scenes. We're a young couple. We're both like working on our businesses. We're still establishing ourselves. But I don't think that was the main thing, because I think if you have love and respect, you have everything. You need to build an awesome foundation. I've seen my parents do it. I've seen my grandparents. I've seen so many people do it, right? I've even seen my best friends do it. I just think the emotional support and the psychological balance just wasn't there. I really do think there was a lot of spiritual psychosis and a lot of ungrounding energy. That is exactly what I lived through, is a lot of psychosis. I'm not saying I was in psychosis. I am saying the person I was with was clearly, when I look at it now, a lot of psychosis factors, right? So a lot of extremity, a lot of narcissism, a lot of gaslighting, a lot of abuse, manipulation, hostage, like all of that. You get what I'm saying? So there was a lot of abuse. So I fall pregnant, and I remember I was having a lot of emotions. And I remember at the time, I didn't reveal it to anybody. I mean, my parents knew. They were obviously excited, but they were also very worried, very concerned. My family clearly was. And to be honest with you, I had a lot of mixed feelings. I never thought, I don't think at that point in time I had thought about being a mom, just because, I mean, I always knew I would. because I feel it energetically. I'm in tune enough to know that I am destined to do that. I just knew in my soul that this was not the person. When I found out I was pregnant, my partner was not reactionary to it. There was no level of happiness, no level of anything other than disturbance, I guess you would say, or almost like disbelief that this would happen or this would come through or whatever. So that also didn't make me feel safe, you guys. And it just didn't, I don't know, it just didn't allow for safety for me to be able to like breathe and be like, oh, cool, like I'm with a partner again. So that was a little bit of a red flag for me, obviously. Fast forward, I'm living life. I'm trying to push through. At this point, I'll be honest, I really thought that this was predestined. I was like, okay, well, if the universe, if God, because I do believe in a higher power, wants me here, then it's obvious now because I'm pregnant. And, I was trying to process what pregnancy would be like. Who's this version of P that's pregnant, that's conceiving this child? And also, like, what do I want this child to learn? Like, am I going to be a good mother? Like, all of these questions. If you're a mom watching, I'm sure you get it. All these questions that come up. Like, how can I give this child? And I'm already seeing, by the way, you guys, how traumatic this relationship is, how toxic it actually got in a lot of instances. So I'm sitting there with myself and I'm going, do I really want this partner? Like dead ass. I'm being dead ass with you guys. I'm like, do I really want this partner? Is this what my story is? Like, it just didn't feel right. It felt like I was settling. To be honest with you, it felt like I was going to settle. This was not it. And it's not because of the child, by the way, because it had nothing to do with the child. It was because of the circumstance, like the partner. Like when I envisioned my partner, I would see like this person who's very supportive, very loving, makes me feel safe. And I never felt safe. That's the truth. I never felt safe in myself. So much less am I going to feel safe in the presence of somebody like this. You know what I'm saying? So it just felt like a lot. It was a lot. And fast forward, I'm pushing through and I go back. Let's go back to that dream. I go back to that dream and I had a dream that I miscarried and all I could see is blood, literally blood. And what's interesting to me is that the night before I went to bed, I was exhausted. Obviously, I was pregnant. At this point, I was 2 months pregnant. And not enough for people to visibly see that I was pregnant, but enough for me to feel something and to feel this like spirit. And I went to sleep and I remember I had held this cross that my family blessed for me and gave me. And I was holding on to it as I was falling asleep. And I remember asking God, I said, God, if this is not the right relationship for me, then give me a sign. Give me a sign and let it be known. Let it be known. So I go to bed that night and then I get this dream of me just bleeding. But I knew what it meant. It felt too premonitory at this point to simply be a dream. So I woke up, I shook it off. That day, I go to the grocery store. I'm under a lot of stress. I'm getting phone calls. There's a lot of intensity. And on my way to the store, I get into a major car accident. I mean, I'm talking about 70 miles per hour hitting a car in the highway. And I walked out by the grace of the universe. And what's crazy is I remember when I crashed into the car thinking to myself, I don't want to be here anymore. And I remember just everything coming full force. And in that moment, I remember my head ringing and something kind of telling me like, you need to leave. I don't know how many more signs, more avenues, more things I got to give to you, but you've got to leave. Like your purpose is a lot bigger. This is not it for you. And instantly upon impact, you guys, I knew I would miscarry. There's no way that during that impact and that car accident, I mean, I walked out by the grace of God when the firefighters and the paramedics got there. My car was like an accordion, and they were super, you know, I guess just like in awe how healthy I was because I walked out with no scrapes by the grace of God. Nobody else also got hurt by the grace of God. But yeah, it was just so impactful. And I remember once the accident and all that situation was settled and I got checked and everything, I went back to the house. And then, sure, 2 days after, I immediately started bleeding and I was no longer, you know, pregnant. And it was a lot. I feel like my life went whoop whoop, like all of a sudden, like lights are on, lights are off, right? And I remember feeling so distraught, but also confused, and also like the car accident, and I was like in pain, but then I was also in pain. And then at the same time, I felt so alone because my family wasn't there. When they found out about the car accident, my parents were devastated. My family was devastated. When they found out about the child, they were also devastated. So it was a lot of things at once. And I feel like I was in such a flight and fight mode that I was like almost like in denial about everything. And I'll never forget this. But I remember being in the counter in the kitchen, and I was just crying hysterically because I was like, this is a sign, like that I can't, come on, like there's no way, P, there's no way. And I remember something ancestrally telling me, you need to leave, you need to leave, you need to leave. And it was difficult, you guys. It was very difficult for me to leave. And I think it was because by that point, it had been 2 years and I was so conditioned that I wouldn't find somebody else and that I wasn't worthy of it. And that at this point, because think about it, I had gone into TikTok, I had built this whole thing, I met this person, I let that go for many different reasons. And then I feel like I got nothing. Like at this point, I totaled and crashed my car. So I have no car. I don't have the baby anymore. The relationship's hanging by a thread. I don't technically have a house if I move out. So it's like, what the, at this point, do I got? You know, I got myself. That's what I realize now. But like in that moment, I was like, what the hell is this? So I remember just like sitting on the counter and I whispered within my mind, and I'm so grateful to my angels. Like I mean that. I could get emotional about that because they were there the whole entire time. The whole entire time. And what's crazy is it's like that gets me emotional because if I ever felt alone in my life, it was that. That was the biggest test of my life. And I was sitting on the counter and I remember looking up at the clock and just seeing 3:03. And I remember back in those days, I looked up angel number 3:03 and like its meaning. And it literally said, leave now. And that's what I did. I grabbed my suitcase. Literally, like I grabbed like two or three pieces of clothing. And I called my parents and I said, I need to come home. Like, this is not okay. I'm not okay. I'm not sure what's going on. I feel like God's telling me to leave. Like something celestial is telling me to leave. I have to leave. I don't feel safe. I don't feel well. I'm not okay. I'm in pain. And there's a lot to clean up from all of this. And literally the next day, within 24 hours, I was flying back to Miami. And it was a lot, you guys. When I flew back, it was very emotional. It was very tiring. I was exhausted. There were many months where I came back and I didn't know what to do with my life. I really didn't. I was in such a state of shock, but also so appreciative at the same time that I was still here, because I think people were kind of like hammocking me and telling me, like, hey, like, you need to understand you're still breathing, so God's not done working with you. And I'm so grateful for everybody that helped me through that time. I'm so grateful for everybody that's helped me through that time. My best friends, the support on social media, um, my family, people from the community came together just to help and to make it easier for me to be restored. And it took me months, you guys. It sorry guys, I had to take a break. It literally took me months to bounce back. Actually, it took me a whole year to bounce back. And I remember I felt like God stripped everything from me. But in that stripping and in that silence, in that quiet, is really when I chose myself. So you guys ask me, where does that wisdom comes from? It comes from the abyss of myself. It comes from hitting rock bottom, because genuinely at that time, I don't think there was more rock bottom than that. And when I came out of that relationship, I was so grateful for everything that it wasn't, because then it taught me everything that is and everything that I do want and that I longed for. And I feel like I didn't start loving myself until I chose myself, and choosing myself was sitting in that countertop and saying, this is not for me. When I look at love, when I look at life, when I look at so much that I have to give and to offer, it's not with this person. And it's not that I think he's like demonizing or anything. I just don't think we were it for each other. And I think it was very toxic. I think it was very draining. And I think part of loving yourself is being honest when something is not working, when something's not life giving, when something is life draining, and choosing to believe that there's better, and not with any animosity, not with any hatred, just saying, hey, thank you for the lesson, but this is not for me. And I'm okay. And I'm gonna be okay. So I dragged my feet, but I still pushed through. And I remember there were many moments where I didn't think I would make it through. I'm so grateful for the support, for everything, but I had to dig. I had to dig and hold myself also accountable, you guys, which I know that like might be tough to hear, but like I had to hold myself accountable and say, okay, the abuse, the hurt, the pain isn't my fault, but there is a role that I did play in it. And it's by allowing it, by thinking that that's what I deserved, by allowing, somebody or something to get me out of my character, to get me out of my North Star, by abandoning myself and the things that I love. And it's not coming from a place of shame, it's coming from a place of love and truth. And that's the truth. I did. Again, I let it go. And I wasn't loyal to my inner child. So the reparation from that, the rebuilding from that has taken forever, but it's been the most beautiful journey. After this relationship, I got to go back to TikTok and help so many people. I mean, it's one of the reasons why I regained the inspiration, and I was helping people and just kind of like aligning back to self-love. It really is self-love. Like, I don't know how else to explain it. It's just that. It's coming back home to yourself, because I feel like when you really love yourself and when you really believe in yourself, and you have your own company, and you are your own provider and your own protector, it's easier to share that with somebody. Whereas before, I didn't have that. I was coming from lack. I hadn't done so many things yet that I needed to do before meeting my person. And I went to California, and some of you guys have followed me through with that. And that was beautiful. And you guys were so supportive. And I shared so much, and that experience was beautiful. I got to meet some of also my new friends that I've had now for a while, and they're amazing. And it was a beautiful experience. It felt like I could breathe again. And it felt like those little glimpses of pee that were lost had been found and retrieved, but also like in new ways. I felt new. And I learned so many things, and I cried so much, you guys. I cried so much. But I also healed the relationship with my parents. I didn't, in theory, yes. Like, I stopped posting on TikTok. I don't have a car. I still don't have a car, you guys. I moved back with my parents, this time by choice. Um, and yes, in theory, it looked like I failed. I felt like that for a while. I felt like I had failed. And I remember talking to my aunt and uncle, which are like second parents to me, by the way. And I was crying to them, and I'm like, I feel like I failed. And I remember them telling me, you didn't fail. Like, you learn, now you know, and now you're aware, and from this too, you shall rise. And now I look at it and I'm like, wow, if I didn't go through all of that, I would have never met my current partner. I would have never met my best friends, and I would never be here for you. I just wouldn't. And I wouldn't be sharing this. And again, I don't want this to feel like a woe is me. I don't want this to feel like I have it figured out. There are still moments I'm healing. Clearly, you can still see I cry about this, right? Because it hits so deep in that emotional level. But I'm just so grateful. And I feel like Spirit has blessed me enough to be able to help people. So yes, when you ask me why learn from me, or why I get the wisdom where I get it, it's not in a book. Not to say that books aren't great. It's because I lived it, because I survived it, because I've integrated it, and I can tell you genuinely now from my own lens what love is and what it isn't. And I'm so grateful. And if I can help somebody differentiate that and see that in their lives, I'm gonna do that. If I can save somebody from going through what I went through, then I will do that. And I think that that's what life is about, is taking the experiences that you've gone through, putting them as wisdom, and then sharing that with other people so that you can help them. And not from a place of fear, because I always knew I didn't want to talk about this from a place of fear, but from a place of empowerment. Like, it just doesn't have power over me anymore. The emotions that I feel are eternal gratitude. Because to be honest with you, if it wasn't for this experience, I feel like I wouldn't be here now. And here now is exactly where I'm meant to be. So I want to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you guys for listening to this video. I know this video is a lot. It's very uncomfortable for me to share this. And I'm doing it from the highest form of love. But I also know it's very important for the next stage in my life, and also to give that little child inside of me, that inner child, little P, a voice to share her story. And this is my story, and a little bit of how I've learned to navigate relationships and what they are and what they aren't. And it's through me. It's through me. It's through choosing me. It's through learning me. It's through taking that time off from that relationship and being here now, and taking those 2.5 years alone, and just, and it's not to say that I'm 100% healed, because I don't think we're 100% healed, just like I think we're healed already. It's about understanding yourself. And I don't think you need to be perfect for love. That's another thing that this relationship taught me. I don't think you need to be perfect for love. I don't think you need to sacrifice yourself or change yourself to feel worthy of love, or abandon yourself or abandon the people you love in order to be in a relationship. That's not love. And that's what this relationship taught me, right? Is like all of the things that is not. And it's through all of this, that I got to learn so much about myself. What does P like? Does she want to live in LA? Cool, let's go to LA. Like, can she spend time alone? What does she love doing? What's her personality really like? Like, letting that inner child shine bright, because that's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. Is me, right? In this case, it's you. You create your reality, your life, through what you accept and what you believe about yourself. So if you believe that less is what you deserve, then you will get that. But if you believe that you're destined for more and that you deserve more, that's also what you will get. So, lots more to cover about this. Let me know in the comments down below if you enjoyed today's video. I know it was a little bit heavier one, but I also know this is great for the next stage of my life. So, I am so internally grateful for you guys allowing me the space to also share the story. I know it's not the easiest, but it's a little bit of how I learn, and it's a little piece of my heart that goes with you. So if you found yourself in this video, I hope there was something useful here. Thank you so much for being here, for holding the space with me. I love you, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.